Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. McCorkle, Steelers must address defensive line early in 2024 draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers have many needs entering the 2024 NFL draft, but one that is flying under the radar throughout this draft process is along the defensive line. Part of that is because the position isn't viewed as being particularly strong in this year's draft crop. He was present at the Senior Bowl last month and weighed in a little under what you would hope for in a 3-4 defensive end at 286 pounds. He does have ideal length at 60-50, with 34 3/4 inch arms. He was also a two-time team captain in college, which is normally a draw for the Steelers. He played all over the defensive front at the Senior Bowl, but spent a lot of time out on the edge and might fit better as a 4-3 defensive end. Robinson's measurables are similar to DeMarvin Leal when he came out in the draft. Back when he was taken, there were questions about where his fit on the defense would be. That is a question the Steelers are still trying to figure out, or perhaps have already given up on trying to figure out with Leal spending a lot of games inactive at the end of last season. Another player projected to go in the top few rounds of the draft is Clemson DL Rook-Hororo. At 6'4", 295 pounds, he could very well be a player of interest to the Steelers. Measurements aren't everything, but that is a very similar body type to what Cam Hayward had when he was preparing for the draft in 2011. He will be a player to watch closely at the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine. Not that long ago, the Steelers looked set at defensive line with Stephon Tuitt, Hayward, and Javon Hargrave on the roster. Hargrave left in free agency and Tuitt prematurely retired after an injury, and a family tragedy took his attention away from football. They have attempted to restock the shelves with draft picks. Leal was taken in the 3rd round in 2022 and Isaiah Loudermilk was taken in the 5th round in 2021. Last season, they were trading weeks being game day inactives as neither player took control of the last defensive line spot on the roster. They could look in free agency for help, but many of the options that are projected to be available come free agency are too old or too expensive. The draft is the preferable route to grab a young player who the team can sign to multiple contracts. The only proven building block the Steelers have at the moment is Keanu Benton. Finding someone else to pair with him long-term is critical. Hayward is in the last year or two of his career at age 34, and Larry Ogunjobi has not provided the return on investment to warrant multiple more seasons at an 8-figure salary cap number. So much of the 3-4 defensive system is predicated on good defensive line play. The draft doesn't have a ton of perfect fits for what the Steelers look for, but if they keep kicking the can down the road, it will become a more urgent situation next offseason. It would probably be wise to start addressing the need now. Madden Monday, Penguins loss signs Jake Gensel's exit papers. Deontay Johnson's future is in doubt with Steelers. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, their Jaromir Jagr jersey retirement ceremony on Sunday was an unmitigated, fun-filled success. Until roughly the second intermission of the game itself. By then, you could tell that the Penguins were just trying to nurse a 1-0 lead against the Los Angeles Kings. Their putrid power play, which had magically managed to finally score a goal in the first period, was starting to let them down once more. Sure enough, the Kings stormed back late in the 3rd period to tie the game and eventually win it 2-1, thanks to 2 goals from Adrian Kemp. That would be the final score. The result threw a wet blanket on the Celebrate 68 jersey retirement festivities for Jagr and, according to our Mark Madden in this week's Madden Monday podcast, perhaps on the Penguins' season as well. "They're awful," Madden said. "They're a bad hockey team. They are where they're at in the standings by merit or lack thereof. They're going nowhere." Madden insists this loss is enough to tilt any remaining scales in favor of trading injured winger Jake Gensel before the March 8 deadline. "A game like tonight signs Jake Gensel's exit papers," Madden said. "You can't keep him, especially now. They're just not very good. You can't let Jake leave for nothing, with no tangible end to be gained by keeping him. So I think you've got to trade him. I don't know what they'll get for him. I don't know if his injury, which I hear is a broken pinky, affects his value in return. but he's got to get traded. I don't want to see that happen. But what can you do? That's the predicament the team, the core three, has put general manager Kyle Dubas in. There is nothing rosy on the Steelers' offseason front either. There are some roster rumors there too, specifically with wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Madden discussed that scuttlebutt on his show Thursday afternoon. As I told Madden during the podcast, I heard those same rumors for the first time just a few hours earlier on Thursday morning. I guarantee we did not hear it from the same people, Madden said. I guarantee you heard it from somebody different. One thing people need to understand about the Steelers is that the organization has no secrets. Nothing that goes on there that somebody doesn't call me about. Especially if someone has an axe to grind, and I can help them grind it. Johnson has one more year left on his contract for $15.8 million. He has lobbied for Mason Rudolph to be the starting quarterback next year, even though the organization seems committed to giving Kenny Pickett the starting job again. I've heard Deontay Johnson's future is in doubt, Madden said. I've heard whispers he plans to have a hold-in again, like he did 2 years ago, because we're going into the last year of his contract, and he's going to make noise over Pickett at quarterback. I'm not a Deontay fan. I think he's mediocre, and they pay them way too much. But if you're gonna get rid of him because he's not a Pickett guy? I mean, come on. That's a worthy discussion point about the Steelers' priorities from Madden. There are reasons to consider moving on from Johnson as the team's number 2 receiver. But it still would create a massive hole. And if the team is willing to create that massive hole just because Johnson isn't on board with Pickett as the starter, that says to me that they are way too concerned over Pickett's feelings. Also, in the podcast, Madden and I discuss some rumblings about the Steelers' quarterback situation behind Pickett and who will be next on the Penguins' jersey retirement list. Steelers urged to sign safety who picked off Kenny Pickett's first pass. The Pittsburgh Steelers weren't expecting to have an issue at safety during the 2023 NFL season. They had Minkah Fitzpatrick coming off of a season where he was named a first-team All-Pro. To fill the other safety spot, the Steelers signed former Damontae Kazee to a 2-year contract. Unfortunately, Fitzpatrick missed some games with injuries, and Kazee was suspended at the end of the regular season. It left the team with some serious depth issues, but they luckily got solid contributions from Patrick Peterson and Eric Rowe. However, they'll spend the 2024 offseason trying to make sure they don't have to turn to a member of their practice squad and a corner for help at safety next season. To avoid that repeat, they could turn to a safety they're familiar with for both good and bad reasons. Steelers Nation's Anthony G. Halkias too believes the Steelers should absolutely sign Jordan Whitehead during the 2024 offseason. The New York Jets voided Whitehead's contract on February 16, making him a free agent. Despite spending his NFL career with the Jets and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's a player who has a bit of history with Pittsburgh. When Whitehead made his way to the NFL, he was likely a player that the Steelers did their due diligence on. The Steelers haven't been shy about drafting local talents in recent years, and the former Jets safety certainly fits that bill. Whitehead grew up and played high school football in the Pittsburgh area. Then he played college ball at Pitt. He didn't end up getting drafted by the Steelers, but he made sure to remind the city of Pittsburgh who he was during a 2022 matchup against the team he grew up supporting. Whitehead made his first visit to Pittsburgh as a pro while he was a member of the Jets, and that first visit ended up being an important day for the Steelers. It happened to be the day that Kenny Pickett replaced Mitch Trubisky. The change came on the team's first drive of the second half. The way the drive ended may have been a bad omen for the rest of Pickett's career. His first NFL pass attempt was intercepted by Whitehead. Pickett has struggled since that interception, while the Jets safety put together another solid season in 2023. The Jets may have ended up deciding to let Whitehead walk during the 2024 offseason, but that doesn't mean he wasn't still a solid contributor during the 2023 season. He started every game of the year for the Jets. It was the second consecutive season where he started every game for them, and he put together some solid numbers over his 17 games. Whitehead intercepted 4 passes in 2023, without anything of the passes being thrown by a Steelers QB, and defended 9 other passes. He also made 97 tackles during the season, including 3 for a loss. The interceptions and tackles were both career highs, while the passes defended tied Whitehead's career high. Those kinds of numbers would make Whitehead a pretty enticing option lining up alongside Fitzpatrick. And you fan, what do you think of the Jordan Whitehead situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.